What are you drinking? What is this? This is pretty good. I tried some of it.
This is Ollie Pop. Ollie Pop, ooh, Ollie Pop.
It looks like a Utah exclusive.
It's a prebiotic drink. Let's see where it... Poppy. No, it's not an Ollie Pop. It's Poppy. Poppy. Poppy.
Where's it made?
It's distributed in Austin, Texas.
Huh. Where's mine made?
Want to get juicy? Sip on this super refreshing and tasty blend of ripe strawberry and a crisp lemon that's so bold.
We're giving you guys free advertising.
Ask for your number. With 5 grams of sugar, ingredients you love, and prebiotics, it's time to fall head over heels for soda again, like right now.
Does it have caffeine in it?
Ollie. I mean, Poppy.
Poppy.
Strawberry lemon.
Strawberry candy.
Soda's back, but better.
Mm.
Ingredients you can love, prebiotics infused with apple cider vinegar. Ingredients: sparkling water, cassava root fiber, organic cane sugar, organic apple cider vinegar, natural flavors, lemon juice, strawberry juice, organic agave, inulin, stevia leaf extract, concentrate. So there you go. And then this is strawberry lemonade from Aubergine.
Oh, I thought those were the same thing. Mm-mm. Oh, the kitchen.
The kitchen, as Tyler calls it.
Does it have caffeine or no?
Nope. No, sir.
Mine does. Mine is a Gorilla Mind. Is this a Utah company? I started buying these in Harmon's. How do you find out where they were made?
It should say distributed by.
No idea. Dang.
Well, we're back.
We're back. Nice profile pic, bro.
It is. It's studio.
Good.
It is.
I knew you liked that picture.
It is good. And I usually like real pictures better.
Yeah.
This was
such a.
It's great.
It's good. You want it? Well, I guess you could. They're not. Can they see it?
They can. It's not really in focus.
It's a very sweet moment.
Studio Ghibli.
God, that's cool.
Anyways,
capture the moment perfectly.
Great, sweet little girl.
Well, Sam, you want me to get it started?
Yeah, bring us in, Doc.
All right. Well,
it's been. I mean, not for listeners necessarily, but it's been a little bit since we recorded our last episode.
Yeah, especially in person, because we did one virtually.
That's right.
Last week. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yes, we're back.
So we're back.
We're back. And I'm back with a question.
Question time.
What is your favorite Disney movie?
Favorite Disney movie?
Snow White just came out, right? Snow White came out, the live action remake, and it bombed for a lot of different reasons. But I was thinking, I was like, because I think everybody has like their own favorite Disney film, or like a film that's, I don't know, that they don't hate as much as other Disney films. So I was just curious of like, what is your favorite Disney film? Going back to like the 1940s or 1930s or whatever the original Snow White was made. Like we're talking, and Marvel, Star Wars don't count.
I don't know those.
Okay.
I mean, I was gonna say The Lion King.
That makes sense. I should have known that was gonna be your answer.
I mean, that's the thought that came to my mind. But then I also thought of the movie Heavyweights. And I'm like, was that a Disney movie? I think it was a Disney Channel original movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Come here, you devil log. Ben Stiller.
Heavyweights. I think it was a Disney.
I think it was a Disney movie, dude. And I always remember when he's flying to Fat Camp, and that cute little airline hostess assistant. What do they call? What's the
flight attendant?
Flight attendant.
Yeah.
Dude.
No, this was not a Disney Channel original, man. This was a movie.
I know it was a movie, but I think it was made by Disney.
Was it? How do you find out? Distribution, right? Walt Disney Pictures. Oh my gosh, it counts. Heavyweight.
Heavyweight. It's a
Coming in
classic.
from behind. I
Dude.
forgot that movie existed.
She had those little wings, and she pinned the little wings on them. She's like, "You have your wings now."
What is the story behind Heavyweights? Like, what is the counseling? Or like
The premise is
what is the premise?
fat camp.
Like to make kids not fat anymore?
So kids go to fat camp. It's this fat camp that all these fat people go to, and I related because I am currently fat.
You look good though. You've lost weight.
And as a kid, I was like really chubby.
Did you go fat camp?
No. But I watched the movie multiple times.
You're like, I need to get me into one of these.
Heavyweights was a safe place.
Okay, cool.
Except when Tony Perkins, Ben Stiller's character, takes over the camp and tries to transform it into like a fitness regime.
Yeah.
And he's trying to transform all of these kids. So anyways, it's them trying to retake back their summer. Anyways, it is really good. It really is really good. You got Salami Sam, Seymour. What's your name? Seymour? Seymour Butts? No one's seen more butts than you, Uncle Tony.
Oh, that's good.
Like, there are so many when he's like, hey, can someone come over here and help get these salamis off my back?
Where can I watch Heavyweights,
Like,
bro?
There are so many moments in Heavyweights that are great. You have Lars, who's like the German assistant to the Perkins squad.
Disney Plus.
And he's like, they tie him up, and he's like, bears love honey.
Oh
and he's like, I'm one of you, don't leave me. Dude, I love that. He's like, he's talking, oh, dude. And she was the nurse. Oh, she was a hottie, bro. Dude, I had the hots for her. And so did the German, Lars, the German guy. Do it to it, Lars. And he was always trying to impress her. He's like, I've got them on the buddy system. Watch this. And he blows the whistle. Buddy! And then all the kids rail back. Buddy! Anyways, so many moments, the blob. They jump on this blob and it launches them.
Yeah.
Right? There's go-karts. I think that's when I fell in love with go-karting, was like through Heavyweights. Anyways, it's really great.
Heavyweight.
It's a great movie.
That's cool.
It's a Walt Disney. It's a Walt Disney movie.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. You can get it. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it.
I mean, that's a 1996. What is that? 95.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up watching Heavyweights, and
do you have a favorite like Disney Channel original movie back when that was like a thing?
I mean, probably Heavyweights, but I really liked Brink.
Oh,
Team Pup and Suds.
What about Cadet Kelly?
I did like Cadet
I
Kelly.
loved Cadet Kelly,
Dude,
man.
that's Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I like. You know, I was watching Christmas like 3 years ago. I love this show.
And she was in Even Stevens, and my gosh, Romano,
Charleston, Ray something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude,
She was awesome.
I had the hots for you.
Both of them actually.
Both.
What about There's this Christmas movie on Disney on the Disney Channel movie called "'Twas the Night." It's Bryan Cranston, bro. Bryan Cranston did a Disney Channel original movie before he was Walter White, and I'm like, Disney, for all of the criticism that we give to Disney, they know how to pick out talent. Like if you are in a Disney movie and you do a good job, like your career's taken off, man.
Yeah.
Like Tom Hiddleston, how he was essentially discovered to be Loki for Thor 15 years ago. He's kind of like we were talking about at lunch with Pedro Pascal. I see Tom Hiddleston in everything now. Like he's a commodity people want.
He's a great, and he's really good. Though.
He is really good. I think mine, bro. I was thinking like, well, I guess there's two categories. There's animated and non-animated, and then just an overall favorite. I think my favorite animated Disney movie is Mulan. My non-animated movie is The Parent Trap, and Parent Trap is the better of the two.
Parent Trap is so good.
Yeah. Lindsay Lohan, like when you're watching it, it's like introducing Lindsay Lohan is her first big thing, and she plays like his 11-year-old kid. Those I was convinced that there were two Lindsay Lohans because one is like SoCal punk and uptight Brit, and how she played both those parts just so well, and just they get together and just the villain that is that bitch. What's her name? It's not Marjorie.
Oh, dude, I know. It's
Is there something wrong with an M?
dude. The red lipstick, the platinum blonde
Yes,
hair.
I gotta find her name. It's gonna drive me crazy.
With the bonnet.
Parent Trap.
If you say the name, don't say it out loud.
Okay, I won't.
I'm gonna remember.
Oh my gosh! Of course, it's that one.
Gosh, it is an M.
It is an M. That is confirmed.
It's absolutely an M, and it's.
When I say it, you will get it. There's people in the podcast right now screaming it at us. He's close.
It's gonna get. It'll come to me. I know it will. Because I even though I hated her, she was the beautiful lady. Yeah. Now I also just fell in love with the original mom.
Yeah. Elizabeth.
Yes.
I love Martin too, the butler that had like the dance with like.
Yes. Yeah.
And then like the house lady with the rich dad who like makes the girl's favorite sandwich, and she's like, you're not Hallie, because Hallie loves peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and this dog hates your guts. You're not her. I know who you are. It's like yeah.
Margot.
No, close. Can I tell you her last name?
Maggie.
No. Can I tell you your last name? If I tell you your last name, you'll get her first name.
First letter of the last name.
B.
Is this is not her real name? This is the character name.
The character. B.
B?
Yeah, her last name is B.
Like that's the letter or that's the last name? That's not the last name.
That's the letter of. You want me to tell you last name?
Yeah.
Blake.
Is it Molly?
No, it's Meredith.
Meredith
Blake, because they call her Mare, all those different things.
That's
Meredith
right.
Blake.
That's right.
Yeah,
I did not get that. I thought I was going to get that.
And when they took her hiking, Meredith Blake, I mean, what a beezy, man.
They
put her out in the raft
and
stuff.
The airbed.
Yeah.
That's great.
The stories, like when you think back, it's like, no, like obviously, like let the man choose who wants to marry and whatever. But, I'm glad it finally ended up working out.
Well, sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Sometimes, people lose sight of what's real. And go after what's shiny. And I think that was kind of the case, if I remember, in that situation.
I don't want to get too adult here, but the shared assets of that family is crazy. Like those twins will never have to work a day in their life. The guy owns a vineyard in California, and she owns a high-end clothing company in London.
It's true.
I mean, those two are just
minted.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta get their family together because we will never have to work again. We will be trust fund twins.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I remember. And Meredith Blake wanted that.
Yep.
She wanted that.
Yep, she wanted.
And like, I just when he. Oh, I think it's a breakup, or he's just like, oh, she's like, it's either them or me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, them.
Yeah, easy.
And then she's like,
didn't she chuck something at him too?
Yeah.
I mean, what a stupid, like, of course he's going to choose them. He's a decent guy. He loves his kids. He loves both his kids. No, he hasn't seen one. Now, parenting, like, you're going to split up these twins and then not tell them about each other that they meet at summer camp? I mean, come on. Like, you could have made some other agreement where it's like, let's at least let our twins know they have a sister on the other side of the world that looks exactly like them. Let's at least have some kind of arrangement here. But bad parenting aside, of course he's going to choose them. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Why couldn't an ultimatum? It's like, no, how do we make this work? She's just like, no, me or them. It's like, if he could have, he would not have even let her finish that sentence.
He just was like, them.
Them. Oh God.
Parent
I think
Trap's
it's Parent
great.
Trap.
That's a great answer. That is a great answer. Ah, memories, dude. Memories.
There's so many of them, you know. I think you get older, you watch some of them, you're like, this wasn't as good as I remember. And there's some you watch, and I'm like, nah, this is just as good as I remember.
Dude, another one was Spice World.
Yes.
That wasn't a Disney Channel, though.
No. Where was that one?
I don't know. But it was like the babysitter special. Every time the babysitter came over, we watched Spice World.
Oh, okay. I liked Xenon, Girl of the 21st
Oh,
Century.
dude.
Yeah, remember Xenon? Z3 and Z2. I like Z2.
Supernova Girl.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. What is that guy's name? Protozoa or something?
Protozoa.
He had like the Bowser haircut with like.
Xenon the Z-Quel, bro.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Halloween Town was fun.
Oh, yeah. Halloween Town is good. Yeah, all of them. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them now.
What do they even make nowadays?
Disney Channel? I have no idea. Are they still
Like-
around? I don't think. Are they like? I legit don't know if they're
It's
still around.
probably just like TV shows, like
It's just I'm gonna be on Disney Plus, right? Why would you keep something on regular TV?
That's So Raven or Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Like, I feel like that or Hannah Montana. Like that is kind of. It went from like original movies to like original TV shows. But I go, dang. Growing up, there was all of these awesome original movies that actually still held up pretty good, still today. But then now, what do they get?
They've tried to I think remake a few of them. Like there was like a Boy Meets World sequel that I never watched, but I heard was pretty good. I think there's a That's So Raven sequel that I heard was just total trash. They tried to reboot Lizzie McGuire, but there was some kind of disagreement between Disney and Hilary Duff, where Disney wanted to still be really, corny and cheesy and Lizzie McGuire ish, while Hilary Duff was like, no, this character needs to have evolved in the 20 years since she's been on the screen. It needs to be a little more adult, and they couldn't get over their impasse, and so it never happened.
No, good for Hillary.
Studio interference is always a good thing, right?
Oh, we love a good studio interference. Speaking of studio, the studio on Apple. If you want to know what it's like in the film industry, watch the studio.
Before we because this podcast today is not about Disney, it's about Narcos. But I was thinking of a question on my way up here. And one of the things I was going to ask Sam is, what's your controversial TV take? What's a TV show that maybe you don't like as much as the rest of the world does, or one that you think is underrated or whatever? And mine was going to be that I don't think that Severance is the best show on TV. I don't think it's the best show on Apple Plus right now because, like Sam said, I've been watching the studio too, and I wanted to get his thoughts on just how. And you got to check it out. It's Seth Rogen, which I know has held me back, but I went into it, really enjoyed it. Can't wait for the next episode. And so the first things I asked Sam when we went to lunch today was, how real is this? What is a note? What is a oneer?
The oneer.
The oneer. What is what's the other episode's name?
I haven't seen the third one, so I don't know.
The note is episode 3. The oneer is episode 2.
Oh, the first one's the studio.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When it comes to the Kool-Aid movie, that's what they're talking about, making the Kool-Aid movie.
Dude, 100%, and it's just who is coming up with these ideas, and then also all of the hopes and dreams of, no, I'm going to be in I'm going to tell the stories I want to tell, and then you get the position, and then the studio head, is like, what movie are you making? And you like the new position that you're in and all of that comes with it, and then you fall into the system. And that is not exclusive to the studio head, but that idea is absolutely 100% a reflection of what happens in most of the studios today.
It got me thinking too. just when you were talking, there's a quote that Neil Druckmann said a few months back when he was talking about his new project, the Intergalactic Bounty Hunter religious cult thing he's doing. And he was talking about, people screaming for Last of Us Part 3. Us included, probably. I want one too. But he was like, working with Naughty Dog, he was like, obviously Naughty Dog would love another Last of Us. But if we're passionate about something else, Naughty Dog supports that. He's like, if this is where it has to stop, this is a fine ending point where The Last of Us 2 ends off. And he was like, that's a very privileged position to be in. I never take that for granted. And I listened to him say that back, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, well, why? Like, why would that be? What do you mean by a privileged position? And then I watched the studio, where it's like, now Last of Us obviously is a different property altogether because it's a masterpiece. But like, let's say you work a studio like Naughty Dog, and it's like, I want to make this intergalactic TV show. It's like, well, too bad we need an Uncharted 7. So why don't you go work on Uncharted 7, and then maybe in a few years, maybe we can come back to this intergalactic thing. And it got me thinking like that. If you find a studio that actually supports like your passions and your creativity and puts faith in you, that's got to be one hell of a blessing. After seeing like what I saw in the studio, where the guy was forced to make a Kool-Aid movie,
dude. Well, and also like what happened that they showed with Martin Scorsese.
Oh yeah,
and he has this idea. They're like, we'll buy the script, then we'll make the movie. And he's like, I bought it to kill it, right? And that absolutely happens. There is a graveyard of movies, scripts, stories that are simply bought to be put out from someone else making it. The studio goes, no, we don't. We know that that's going to be a good story or whatever, but we don't want to spend the money on it, and we don't want anyone else to possibly benefit from it. So we'll work out a deal and we'll own this, and then it just gets buried. And it's so sad.
That's effed up, man.
It is. That's why there's like, and like they'll even to the degree that they'll make a movie, they'll do everything. They will shoot it. It will get finished, and it is a viewable and it is a watchable and a distributable film. And they just put it in the vault. And he goes, nope, this one will never be released.
Jeez, man.
And it's like all of those people that spent all that time on that to make that happen, for it to just die. So sad.
Huh. Where did that happen? It's fascinating to me because I listened to the same interview with Neil Druckmann where he was talking about,
and the studios will then just report it as a loss
and just get like a tax write-off or something.
Yep.
Is it? So okay, I've heard about this happening, but the big event that I heard about it happening was because of Batgirl, where Warner Brothers made this Batgirl film with Michael Keaton in it and whatever, and it was all done and shot and ready to get released, and they were just like, nah, we're not putting this out.
Yep.
And never got released and took a big write-off. And
that's what happens.
I do wonder, like, because like I just like, so you talk about like company creatives, right? I read this article a few days ago from the Wall Street Journal where it's like even creatives miss things, because they were talking about something to do with like the studio and different things, and they were talking about like all these amazing stories that all these studios and creatives shot down. They talked about like The Last of Us, for one, how Neil Druckmann had The Last of Us Part 1 and he pitched it to his university. The university brought in this panel of like video game experts, of TV people and movies, and they were like, this will never work. This is just a knockoff of 28 Days Later. He got shut down. You listen to the creator, they did an interview with the creators of Stranger Things, how many times those guys got shut down.
Yeah, a lot.
Or like even sticking with Netflix, Squid Games. Like how many times Squid Games were like, nah, this is no good. So I'm like, how do you, like in the position of creativity or a studio or whoever, like, how do you, I don't know, like filter? Because it seems like a lot of these good ideas, like Squid Games, like Stranger Things, like The Last of Us, and other properties, can kind of get bounced around before someone actually is like, no, this is good. Like, let's take a chance on this.
Yeah, yeah. For years, things will get bounced around for years, and then it will go like a director will be on board, and then it just will never get up off the ground. So they leave because they're like, "Well, I'm done waiting for this," and then another one get brought on, and they'll go and develop it and try and get it up off the ground, and then it doesn't. So then they leave, and then another director comes in, and they're like, "All right, well now you're going to take over," and it just becomes this never ending cycle of what's happening. So it's a weird thing because who knows what's going to pop off or pop on, and that's why I mean, you can do testing and you can go off of algorithms, and I think to a degree, obviously that leads you to something, but you can't base everything off of that. Like you just can't, because then you miss out on these things that get turned down, right? That end up becoming amazing. So, I mean, I don't want to pretend like I know all the answers or I know how to do it myself either, but it just doesn't make sense the way the studios operate. And I think at the end of the day, it's follow the money and watch where it goes. I mean, I think that's bottom line. And I appreciate studios like A24 that, for the most part, there's still studio control with A24, but for the most part, and what I have heard and understood from filmmakers that work with A24, that it's pretty. They give a lot of, and certainly more reign than a studio like Disney, especially around their precious IP, to just let them go and make their movie, right? But they still will come in and go, well, let's do less of this, let's do less of that, blah 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 blah. Like they did that with Heretic. They had so much more simulation theory in Heretic, but A24 is like, we need less of this, so that got out, right? But then there's other, and I could be wrong, but from what I understand about Blumhouse, which is like horror, basically horror stuff, their model is like, cool, instead of spending $100 million on one movie, we're going to spend $10 million on 10 movies. And we know some of them are absolutely going to flop and fail, but there's going to be at least one or two that are going to make that 100 million back, start a new IP, and then bring us more money where we'll make 10 more. So they're constantly like, here's this movie, here's this movie, here's this movie. And it's not like they're just throwing them away. They want them to be successful, right? It's still $10 million. But they know that some of it's just not going to hit. But they also know that some of it will hit, and it will just end up building more. So, I mean, I kind of like that. But obviously, like $10 million is, I mean, less than 10 is what Heretic was, less than 10. But you look at your big studio films, big studio films that are up to 370 million or more. It's like that versus 10 million. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And most of that money goes to the stars, especially if it's star-studded.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
Interesting conversation.
I mean, okay, you don't like Severance as much.
No, I'd like Severance. I gotta clarify that those online people that like Severance will come after.
Yeah,
it's fine, but it's not my favorite show. It's not my favorite TV show on Apple TV.
But now that you've seen the studio and you're watching the studio and you see kind of the studio work, I mean, the studio system is just reflective of the worst of corporate system.
Yeah.
And I mean, Severance is just commentary about like the system, like the corporate system that we live and exist in, of like you go to work, you live your life for us, and you clock in, you get the numbers, and you clock out.
Yeah.
Right? And you dress like we want you to dress, you talk like we want you to talk, you mold into who we want you to be.
You play these stupid games where
Yep.
it's like, we're going to become a big family, but we will screw you if push comes to shove.
And like, you leave your shit at home. We don't want it. We don't care about that. We want nothing to do with it. We don't want to know about it. You leave your shit at home. But when you're here, you're ours. You're part of the family. But whose family? Our family, not your family.
Yeah.
So, anyways, maybe that will make you look at Severance a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it definitely makes me look at just, you watch movies of, like, the ones that we reviewed on here. Like, I'll give an example of, like, Captain America Brave New World. Where, where it's like you could just tell the studio had like their hand and foot on somebody's throat, where it's like, hey, this needs to happen, this person needs to make a cameo, we need to have the story go in this direction, and it's just kind of like some kind of Frankenstein monster with a film that's not going to offend anybody, it's not going to tell anything brave or anything new, versus like a show like Heretic, where, from what I understand what you just said, like it's an A21 film, so it's an original story. I imagine when he made that, the director made that, he probably came back to the studio to A24 and they probably had some notes where it's like, okay, here's what we liked, here's what we didn't like. And I imagine that's not an easy conversation to have with someone that's creative, to hear the people that are funding your project and being like, you didn't like this scene, but this scene is key to what the film has, what it means, what the story I'm trying to tell, and how that can probably end up great in some instances and how it can probably end up not so great in other instances.
Well, I mean, let's go back to the studio, episode 2, the oneer, when Patty is trying to make her movie. And, right, she does not want the studio head there. No one wants him there, right?
Yeah.
And he has all these ideas, but she's like trying to like save face, and thank you for letting me make my movie. Sure, your idea. Let's
try it.
Let's go with your idea, right? But then she's also like, I really want Rolling Stones. I need this song in my movie, but it's going to cost $800,000. So, can I use that as leverage? Come be on set, give your bad ideas, and it's going to hurt my movie. But, hey, you like Rolling Stones, right? I love Rolling Stones. Oh, you know what would be great in this movie, in this scene, would be this Rolling Stones song. Like, can we get it? Maybe that. She said, I really want it, blah, 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 right? So anyways, like that wheeling and dealing also, that leverage exists where it's like, okay, I'm going to let you come in and you're going to like move your pieces around and it's going to just dishevel my show. But, okay, if I let you do that, now I'm going to ask for this and then get it. So that's all part of it as well.
Interesting. Because like in episode 3 that you'll see, like there's a director that makes a really good film, but it goes from an hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours and 50 minutes. And there's a big debate on it. It's like, this is now too long of a movie where there's no capes and there's no lightsabers in this. And you can't make a 3-hour movie and have it marketable to the public without lightsabers or capes. And so there's this fight that goes on between the director, who insists that this is an essential scene, and the actor, who says it's not, and it's drawn out and it makes the movie too long, and the studio, and how that becomes like a battle. And I'm just learning a lot, and I'm just enjoying it.
And this is deep water, and it's like, to that actor who was like, no, this isn't needed, and it's like, shut up.
You know who the actor is? It's Anthony Mackie. It's Captain America. He makes the appearance in episode 3.
It's like, you bring our movie to life. Absolutely. Your performances, they are crucial for our movies to be made. We need them.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't write this story. You didn't think about it. You didn't come up with it. You didn't spend so much time in developing this where you know the ins and outs. You came in, read the script, went, this is great. I like this character. Who is this character? And I'm going to try and embody this character and bring that character to life. That's great. That's great. But in terms of a vision, that's not your movie, actor. Shut up. That's the director's movie. It's his vision or her vision. And don't try to commandeer that ship. That is not your place.
Yeah. Huh. You're really going to like episode 3 then. It's very good. The show's very good. So my controversial opinion is that Severance is not the best TV show on TV. It's not even the best one on Apple. The studio is.
I think I answered that question actually a couple of weeks ago.
Which one? Your controversial TV opinion?
Which was The Mandalorian.
That you don't like it or you do like it?
I don't like it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you probably did. Which episode is that? I forget now.
I'm not sure.
Huh. Did I answer that question? I don't think I did. It's something to do with The Mandalorian. We'll listen. We'll let you know.
Anyways.
But we're not here to talk about Disney or the studio. We're here to talk about Narcos. And so Narcos, I think, is because like since Sam and I started this podcast, we've given each other like recommendations, right? He's like, well, you watch Heretic. And I'm like, well, you watch Daredevil. Like, okay, you watch Game of Thrones. You watch Narcos. And like we want to deal on some of the stuff that we haven't seen yet. This is yours. And I think this is the first time that you finished one of my projects, or one of my recommendations. And so if you listen to any of our Game of Thrones episodes, you know it's mainly just me being like, okay, here's what I thought, good, bad, liked, disliked, thoughts of the future. Obviously, Narcos, there's no thoughts about the future because it's a story that's already happened. But like it's someone who's seen it and someone who just saw it, what do you think, bro?
I really enjoyed it. Like, it was different than I expected. But you'll hear you'll hear a little bit more about this with our interview with Steve Murphy about Narcos. But I didn't really know what to expect going into Narcos. I kind of expected something like 000, where it was purely narrative. And Narcos is narrative, but it is infused with like reality and like real footage, and it's a storyline of Pablo Escobar with the DEA and Steve Murphy and Javier Peña, right, and their journey into Colombia and all of this. I learned like so much about America that I had no clue about, specifically Miami, and how fucked Miami became because
even
of
still, I think,
cocaine. But especially like in the early, where it was just like people. I think I could be wrong. I felt like they were saying it was like 81 people a day were being killed. 81 people a day were being killed over cocaine or related to cocaine. And then the whole dare thing, say no to drugs, and then the presidency making their opinions and their statements and stuff. But I'm also looking at this and going like, no one actually really wanted this to stop because of how much money it brings in, not just for the Narcos, but also America. Like the amount of money, and they want a piece of that, right? Billions of dollars and it's coming across the border, and they seize it, that's money.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's the government's money. And they're going to take it and they're going to use it for whatever they want. And like, for that to go away, they don't want that to go away.
Well, they sent 2 agents to go fix the problem.
Yeah, 2 agents.
2 agents, Javier Peña and Steve Moura. And Steve tells us that. He's like, the war on drugs? Like, he laughs at it. It's like, okay, we're going to fight the war on drugs. Here's 2 DEA agents. Good luck, Colombia. Here you go, Steve and Javi.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was really enjoyable. It was a bit of a roller coaster emotionally, in that, and we talked about this in the Steve Murphy episode, but the storytelling was done in such a way, and it was so good, especially with the performances, that I started to care about Pablo. I don't think they glorified Pablo, but they certainly humanized Pablo, and I started to care for Pablo, even though the dude's a monster, absolute monster, atrocious things that he has done to the world. The people, the lives he's taken, children, women, men, police, just the dude is a monster and did very awful things. Was very selfish. But watching this show, I'm starting to go, dang, Pablo, I feel bad for you, man. Like, you just love your wife and your kids and you just want this to end. And I talked to Steve about that, and he made a good point. He didn't want it to end. He didn't want to spend his time with his family. He had $100 million or $1 billion or whatever. He could have walked away at any point, had whatever life he wanted anywhere in the world with his family. But he wanted power. He wanted money. Like, his greed and his lust for more was the only thing that consumed him. And I forget the actor's name who played him.
Wagner Moura.
Holy shit,
yeah.
bro.
He was in Civil War, yeah.
So good.
Or something like the casting in this, like Narcos is another one that does a really good casting. Because, like, I mean, back in the day, like, Pedro had just come off Game of Thrones, so he kind of knew who he was. But Boyd Holbrook was a nobody back then. Wagner Moura, I think this is, like, his first big role. If you look into, like, Narcos Mexico, like the spinoff series, they cast as the main villain the guy that's the main actor in Star Wars Andor now. Like, he's huge now. Like, he's such a, like, there's a couple actors in that. The villain, another narco in that Narcos Mexico plays the main villain in Black Panther. There's another actor, I'm forgetting his name, but he's in, anytime there's like a Mexican character to be cast, he plays that character. So they're just really good at casting. A lot of like these Latin American actors that maybe didn't get a lot of like opportunities back when they were making this, like in 2015 or 2014. Just the casting on it was really good, and I agree. Like, you know, as good as performance as Pedro gives, as Boyd gives, as Steve, like they have to show you the stuff that Pablo does to stop you from not caring about him. Where it's like you see the way he interacts with his wife and how protective he is of his wife and what a caring dad he is, and they have to blow up a plane for you, so you're like, oh no, this guy's a bad guy, or shoot all these cops, or blow up a car or something. You're like, okay, he's a bad guy. He's a drug trafficker. He's evil. But you spend so much time with him as the main character, and he gives such a compelling performance where you're just like, oh, I know he's the bad guy in this, but I don't want him to get caught because I want this to go on for another season.
Mm-hmm. Well, and his cousin, and I forget his name now, but his cousin that he's close with throughout the show, Gustavo, and who gets killed by that police guy, and I forget his name. Carrillo, yes. Who with the night force or whatever?
Yeah, search block.
Or
gives a little kid the bullet, and he's like, "You give this to Pablo. This is for him."
Mm-hmm.
Shoves him on an airplane.
Like, Crazy. Well, and I wanted to ask Steve actually, and I should have. I want to ask him about Carrillo. How was that dude like that?
Mm-hmm. I can answer that question. So Carrillo is not a real. He's the only one in the series that's not real. He was a combination of a couple of different police officers to represent like the police.
Block.
Yeah, because the police they had worked with a lot of them had passed away, and their families didn't want to be associated with the series.
Wow.
So Carrillo is the only made up character that represents like the police that's willing to maybe cross a few lines to actually get things done.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Because it's interesting if like you watch the series of it really is like a miracle that this guy died because like the police you're kind of held within the law, right? But the narcos, they don't care. Like the laws to them are just it's like a piece of paper with writing on. They just don't care about those laws. They don't care about the rights unless their rights are being violated, which is funny because like when Pablo's family is getting detained in Germany, it's like you guys can't do this. This is against the law. It's like, oh, now you care. Now you care about laws. Now you care about all these different things. But like they were underfunded, undermanned, and they had 2 American DEA agents that are helping them, and somehow they win this fight. Like the long game of it, like because there's no reason that they should have won. They had less money, less weapons, and more restrictions to where the law became more of a burden to them than actually something that helped.
Yeah, yeah, and so Carrillo. Okay, that's fascinating though to know that he wasn't real. Because I wondered, I was like, dude, that dude was a bad dude. Like, and when I say bad, I mean like he was hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a few of the things he did was not great.
Yeah.
But also it's like, well, who's he up against? What else am I supposed to do? Right? It made me think of Benicio del Toro in Sicario,
Mm-hmm.
when they're just like, nope, he's gonna go do this. He's gonna go do his thing. We're gonna do our thing, and we're gonna turn our back to it. Now, and that's where Emily Blunt's character comes in, and she's just like, but that's wrong. Like he can't do that. And anyways, Sicario is actually a movie we should do. But
are there 2 of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sicario and Sicario Day of the Soldado.
Are they making a 3rd one?
I don't think so.
Shoot.
I think there's a 3rd script, but I don't know.
Some studio probably bought it and buried it.
Yeah.
Something bitches.
But Taylor Sheridan wrote both of them.
Okay.
And then Denis Villeneuve directed the first one, and I forget who directed the second one, but
he's your boy too.
I love Denis. Yeah, he's the best of the best. But so anyways, with Narcos, the another thing that I just really liked about it was the tension that it would build, and the different families that were involved, right? The Cali cartel, and which I assume all of these were real and these existed, right? And to see, it was kind of wild to see that when you allow these very powerful, evil people to start an empire, the damage that can be done, right?
Yeah.
And how do you control that? How do you contain that? And it's like once the genie's out of the bottle, there's no stopping it. Which is still the case today. I mean, cocaine and all of that, like as far as I know, Colombia is still like 80% or something like that of the world's cocaine production.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started with Pablo. And if it wasn't Pablo, it would have been someone else. But I think Pablo, the way they introduced Pablo and I think this was on the bridge, and he's just like, I make deals for a living. Mm-hmm. It's like silver or lead. Mm-hmm. And it was like this.
Oh, yeah, silver as in money.
Money.
And lead as in a bullet.
Yes.
Plata o plomo.
And then he's like to all of the police guards, he's like, oh, how's your daughter doing? Blah 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 in this district, and your wife, blah 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 blah, and he knew everyone's names, everyone's family members, and he was just like, do you really want to mess with me? Because I will end you and your lineage. And what do? You go, okay,
I'll take the money.
Silver it is today, and silver it is tomorrow, and silver it is forever, right? So it's hard to blame anyone that is unknowingly supporting that out of their own necessity of survival in their circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve talked about when Pablo would go and visit all those kids, and I forget what he called it, but you see all of these kids in this show that would be kind of like his soldados, his hitmen, that kept eyes on the streets, would call in, would take people out, shoot police officers, all of that stuff, right? And he would go to these places, these poor places, and he would build up these cities and communities, and basically be like, I'm the savior here. I'm helping you, right? And these young kids would like love that because he's taking care of them and he's taking care of their mothers. So what I need in return, boys, is I need someone that will kill for me, and I need someone that will die for me. And who's willing to do that? And Steve was like, there was like hundreds, So, he 400 to 500 kids at a time running his business outside of all of the adults and everyone else in the system. Anyways, I just thought that the show really did a great job for me, knowing nothing about Pablo Escobar, only the name, and just like the drug trafficking situation, specifically with cocaine and the cartels and all of that. Like, I thought it did a fantastic job in informing me of like the history of what happened, but doing it really engagingly in a narrative that added some fluff here and there, absolutely. And, hearing from Steve that this actually wasn't real or this was real. But I really actually applaud Netflix for the way that they did this because, I don't think it was a promotion of Pablo or cocaine or drug trafficking. I think the show was very good, cool show, but I think it was just depicting it and then showcasing the story of these agents. So if you don't know anything about it, I think the show is a great way to get introduced to it in a way that maybe is different than just looking up news articles and stuff. That you can enjoy good storytelling, but also get some history about what happened. And I ended at season 2. I haven't started season 3 yet because I just wanted to get to the point because Steve's not in season 3.
No, Pedro is.
Pedro is. So, anyways, that's kind of my little brief breakdown of your question if I answered it.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a lot of good points that like as someone that watched it for the first time. I think I asked Steve about this on his podcast, and the more I think about this scene, the more I like this scene because you see, like, Steve Murphy is the most American guy in this show, right? He doesn't speak any Spanish. He's got the weird accent. He's very white, while Pedro can get around pretty well as a Chilean. I guess in Javier, he's a Mexican American. Just he gets around as if he belongs there. Yeah. Steve is always like he's the fish out of water, saying things poorly. It'd be like, what did he say? He's asking for interpretation. But he adds, I think, a part of the show where it's like these two places are connected, like the United States and Colombia, because you see these planes going down in Colombia, these street bombs going off like in the streets. But it's not Colombian money that's funding this narco war against the Colombian government, and then in the end against it's Colombian people. It's American money. And so you talk about the stuff that happens in Miami, and New York, and Salt Lake, and in LA, and Cheyenne, Wyoming, wherever. That scene in the bathroom where Steve beats the shit out of that guy, it didn't happen in real life. Steve did clarify that, but I think it's such a good scene because it connects the two countries. Where he just going to the shitter, and this guy is smoking cocaine, and Steve beats the shit out of him, beats the crap out of him. Because like, you just think you're just having a little fun. I'm seeing dead kids. I'm seeing women that try to sneak this into the country and OD on this. I'm seeing planes that go down, having to go through bodies. I've got friends that are in the morgue because you decided to smoke that and pay some guy $20 for that little shot of cocaine. So I really like that you brought that up. And that scene, I think, just continues to connect the two countries because it's American money that's fueling this narco war.
Yeah.
I asked Steve about that, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. And it's funny because Pablo tourism is a thing in Colombia. Is someone that like has been down there pretty frequently, and Colombians hate it. They absolutely hate it. And like, there's this podcast that happened in Utah County where it's an entrepreneur podcast, and the guy is wearing like a Pablo Escobar T-shirt, and he just thinks it's like just the funniest thing in the world. It's like, yeah, it's Pablo Escobar, you know, the original entrepreneur or whatever. Not knowing the stuff that Escobar funded, that he actually did, that he actually participated in, because Pablo Escobar is considered the worst terrorist that's ever lived in Colombia. And when the Americans go down and they purchase like Escobar T-shirts, they go to Escobar's neighborhoods, they go all these different things. The Colombians have told me it's like how pissed off would you be if I went to New York City with an Osama bin Laden T-shirt on and was taking pictures of 9/11?
Exactly.
Like people in New York would kill those people. They'd be like, "What the hell are you doing?" It's the exact same thing. Like for us, Escobar is not a revolutionary. He's not an entrepreneur. He's a terrorist that killed and terrorized so many of our people. What's the difference? I go to New York with an Osama bin Laden T-shirt and be like, I'm just appreciating his, he was a revolutionary or something, and this is what he did to create a revolution because the world's never been the same. Like the Americans wouldn't stand by it, but because the Americans, we are a first world country and Colombia's a developing country, we don't put up with that versus like the Colombians that have no choice because people going down there and they're having to accept that money to survive. And so I think like Steve said, I think it did a good job of showing us because even in the end scene where Steve kills him, he's like, this is just a dude. Like there were rumors that he could disappear and that he was immortal. Like the scene where he's escaping the prison and the cops are like, you're just gonna let me go. And they're like, okay. And he just leaves his own jail and nothing happens to him. And when Steve shoots him, he's like, oh, this is just a guy. I think they showed a really good job of showing that. And I first was kind of exposed to the trauma that Escobar inflicted on this country. The first time I went down there, I was walking with this elderly-ish lady, in her mid-60s or something, and she was walking right smack dab in the middle of the street when there's two sidewalks. And I'm like, just walk on the sidewalk? That's what they're for. She's like, no, I can't, because what Escobar did is he would put car bombs on the sidewalk and they would just blow up at random. So you have that scene where those kids are looking to get school shopping and this bomb just blows up. So for the last 40 years, she's just walked in the middle of the street because of that trauma.
That's so sad.
And I asked her about that. I was like Colombia being a very traumatized place with this violence, the Pablo Escobar experience, and she was like, and the Colombian nation has done things to try to make Colombia a more trauma-sensitive country based on the trauma that so many people have experienced. And so, for example, if you have a dog in Colombia, that dog can go with you anywhere. Restaurants, gym, church, airport, it don't matter. If you have a dog that's on a leash, it can go with you anywhere. And so I was asking about this. I was like, well, even in restaurants, what about the sanitation stuff? That's kind of gross. If it's not a dog-friendly restaurant, they can just sit on their own chair. And it's like, yeah, like it's us as a country trying to make it just a little more trauma sensitive for all of us. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like in the mall, there's 1,000 dogs of every kind of breed just walking around because everybody has a dog because it's everybody's emotional support dog because everybody has this trauma they then put into like this emotional support animal. And I remember when I went to Colombia for the first time, experienced all that, and then watched the series again, I was just like, okay, like this is like it's a story that I watched on Netflix, but the events really happened and it's still happening. Like the American addiction to cocaine hasn't gone down any. It hasn't fixed any problems. And one time I asked Steve, I was like, if you could really fight the war on drugs, what would you do? And he was like, you have to invest more of that money here versus sending it over. Like you can take out like an Escobar, you can take out like the Cali gentleman, you can take out all these different people, these narco kings in Latin America, but someone else always takes their place.
Yeah, someone else will fill the
it's supply and demand. It's like, how do you make it to where the American demand for drugs is not fueling so much? Because like it's American money, it's the American addiction that's fueling all this violence. And it's like, you don't want to fight the war on drugs. You invest in some kind of prevention here over in the States where you invest in rehab or you invest in some kind of prevention so that people don't get involved in selling or consuming the drugs on the street.
Well, the thing that now comes to my mind is like the whole thing about cocaine in the White House. And I don't know the details or whatever and how recent that was and who it was or whatever. But then it just goes to show you, like, why would cocaine be in the White House?
Yep. And it's like I have this buddy who he works as an attorney. He does private practice like somewhere in Wyoming, but he got hired by a really high end attorney like law firm out in San Fran, I think, when he first got started, where he was working 23-hour days and so those are billable hours, right? So you work, the more you work, the more money you bring in for your firm. And so the firm would actually supply the lawyers with cocaine so that they would be incentivized to work longer to bill more hours for these big companies. And I was like, well, of course. Like it's the people that live in like a different world than the rest of us that are spending the money to actually keep this coming in. Yeah. I just one character in the show that I really liked was the Colombian president.
Yeah.
President Gaviria. I thought he was. I know like the trope of like the reluctant messiah is one that's popular right now, but I really like it where it's like, I don't want this, and like that he's at the funeral of the president, and that boy is like, salva usted Colombia, you saved Colombia. So he runs and he does all these different things, and I think he's just got a really level head on him despite like all the shit that's going down around him. And I love watching his development because like at first he's just like, people just want peace. Like they just want peace. They want to go outside. They want to just do their own thing. Like he's trying to get some kind of like middle ground with these narcos.
Yeah.
And then by the end, he's like, when their lawyers try to like negotiate a surrender, he was like, no, like I've had enough. Like I want him dead. I want him dead. I want you in jail. I want all these different things to happen. I'm done negotiating. And I think by some, he's still considered the best president that Colombia's ever had. Because man, what a job! Like, just, and I thought the actor that portrayed that did such a great job. I loved his character.
What do you do in a situation like that, right? Like, I do not envy that guy. I do not envy that position. I don't care how much money or protection you're giving me. Like, the weight of what's happening in my country, and I'm the leader of it. Like,
and Steve told me once because I was trying to get an idea of just how much money Escobar had, and Steve told me he was like, to give you an idea of how much money Escobar had, he would give his accountants a budget weekly of how many rubber bands they could buy to put his cash in a week, and that budget was $1,000. $1,000 worth of rubber bands per week to put his cash in. Do you know how many? You know like in that little bag of rubber bands, it's like $3.50. There's at least 50 rubber bands in there. He had so much money to where he's like, look, if you let me go free, I'll pay off Colombia's national debt. Like, what do you do as a president of a country where you run the state and you are handcuffed? You are being forced to negotiate with these people. These people have more money, more soldiers, they're more dedicated. I don't know.
And also like if you don't play by his rules that he wants or his demands, and he's just going to then bomb more people, more cities, more places. Like, I mean, also, the weight of that. Okay, well, I'm going to not bow down to your demands, but now there's a bomb that just went off because of my choices that just killed thousands of Colombians,
Yeah.
And it was like, well, should I have just, and that's, they kind of play that as like, to keep the peace, should we just continue letting him do his thing so that less people are dying, less innocent people are dying. People are still going to die, but less innocent people will die.
Yeah.
In atrocious ways, It's like, man, I think the most heartbreaking, there was a lot of heartbreaking stuff in this show. The one that broke my heart the most was, and I think his name is Lion,
The Lion,
the driver, at the end.
Oh, Limon.
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 Where he has this friend, and she has a baby. She's single. She has no money. She's trying to take care of him, and he lures her into being the driver, or in the taxi of Pablo's car, gets her tied in, right? Continues to tie her in, and then gets her out. And now she's free, right? Now Pablo's out on his own. And again, this might be fictional, and this might, but the idea is absolutely true. But Pablo's out on his luck. He's running out of money, and Limon goes, "Oh, I know someone who has a ton of money, and I can take it from her." And he goes, breaks into her house. She comes home with the baby, and he shoots her. And the baby's just left there, and she bleeds out and dies. And like, my heart just broke. And I thought, how many people like her did this happen to?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the show does a good job of describing that too, of like just your normal everyday people that were affected by this. Like the kid that holds the bomb, right? Like he's just like, hey, thanks for putting me in your new neighborhood. I'm a new dad, 19 at most. I'm like,
Yeah.
How can I be of service? And he gets his life gets upended, and the Sicarios end up killing his wife after to clean their tracks. Just a normal person that had nothing to do with any of it. The lawyer's son at the end, where he's just looking to go to school. He's just a 13-year-old kid, just looking to just date girls and do whatever. He gets looped in like in this thing, and because the hit squad that ends up forming against Pablo is just out for blood, he ends up getting in the crossfire. It's a normal person that just down on their luck, happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. And then I think it culminates with that too. That girl just looking to survive, right? Like I know girls in Colombia that fit that exact situation perfectly, where it's like my budget every day is I've got $7 and I got to make this last for the day. How do I make it work? How do I make a life without putting myself in exploitation? And someone that you trust says, hey, just be a passenger in a car and you'll make some money. And you put your trust in the wrong person. And I think, I put in my notes here. I was like, well, having watched I've watched it a couple different times. And I think you bring up this character. I can't remember her name. I remember her daughter's name is Salome. I don't remember her name. But just a good lesson of the show is just be careful who you surround yourself with. Because, like, in the end, you look at the story of Pablo Escobar. In the end, it wasn't the DEA that took him out. It wasn't the Colombian cops that took him out. It was his friends that he had burned. He burned his friends, and they freaking went and formed a death squad with the Colombian left wing, right wing militants in the jungle. It was like, look, we were with Pablo. He screwed us out of some money. He screwed us out of a partnership with his thing. Let's join up. We'll fund you. You just go to Medellin and you just start killing people. And so in the end, like the cops are handcuffed because there's corruption there. The DEA has 2 people there, but this hit squad that comes in, they just don't care. They're killing people. They're hanging people up. They're sending messages to Escobar in blood, like on the walls of the city. And in the end, like if his closest people didn't get killed by this death squad, they fled because they were so scared of the death squad. And the death squad ended up killing the lawyer and his son. They just had no moral. They just wanted to hurt Escobar and his empire, and they did it through the same violence that he was inflicting on the people. And it was the people that he surrounded himself with that were just bad people. They betrayed him, or he betrayed them, and they came after him. And I think it's a good lesson in life. It's just, just be careful who you surround yourself with. Because I think it's the people that you give the tools to hurt you and trusting that they won't are the ones that end up doing it in return. And that's what happened to Pablo.
I think just be a good human being.
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it to not? We're not. All of us are imperfect, right? And I know I make a lot of mistakes, and maybe piss people off, and I try to be kind to everybody. I get a little less kind on the road when I'm just around fucking idiots. But it's nice to be nice, right? Be a good person. Don't do crazy shit. And don't support crazy shit. Like, think about it. I think most of the world problems come from self-indulgence. Like, if people can just check themselves, how many things would get, it would be such a preventative measure if people could just check themselves,
Yeah, and I think in this show, I think the best,
myself included in that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. I think the best human being in this show is Javier Peña, Pedro's character. And I say that with some bias, but like every interaction that Pedro has with somebody, I feel like he genuinely cares about that person. Like there's this girl that he's paying for sex, right? And essentially an informant. She's essentially one of the lost girls of Colombia, and she gets this call to go to this big narco party, and she goes missing. And the steps that he takes to get her back, I mean, he crossed some moral lines, but he just did his thing. Same thing with this communist. This communist that has information on like Pablo's raid of the Capitol building, and he goes out of his way to protect her. When Steve gets kidnapped by the Cali cartel, the lengths that he goes to try to get him back, like if there's any character in this show that's just inherently good, and that maybe he does some very questionable moral things, but like he's the one that tips off, the death squads to let him know like where these people are going to be, because he recognizes of like my method is not working. I need something more aggressive. But Javier cares about the people that's in his inner circle. Like that scene where him and Murphy and Javier's getting sent home because his name ended up in the journal of like this guy was giving information. He's getting sent over to Texas or something. Like his conversation with Murphy, just a very, like they've been through all this different stuff. They were making fun of each other's shooting abilities. They had fought. They had some disagreements. And when it comes time where Javier, the one who, it probably is the one mainly responsible, if you're talking to like the American side, for the takedown of Escobar, doesn't even get to be there while it happens. He has to hear about it. I think in the story in a bar, in the real life, he was chasing up a fake lead that didn't lead anywhere when Pablo was killed. Just didn't get to be there. Like it sucks. Because anyone deserved to be there on the roof when he was killed, it was Javier Peña. But sometimes life just doesn't work out that way. But I think if Javier could go back and like the people, like he didn't save Colombia, right? But there were specific instances in this series where his actions saved the life of somebody else, whether it be Steve Murphy, whether it be the prostitute in Colombia, whether it be another drug lord that he just stuck his neck out for. Like, if there's anyone that's inherently good in this series, I think it's Javier Peña's character.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I would say the same. Absolutely. And I noticed that for sure. And I would say the same about Steve purely because I met the guy. I mean, screen to screen.
Yeah.
Right. But I got to spend an hour, 2 hours in conversation with him. And knowing, that didn't happen. That's not how that happened. This is not really what happened with me. Which were the lower moments in his character's portrayal. Which I get for a storytelling purpose. I just go, just a good human being, and Javier's got to be the exact same way.
Yeah. I've never met Javier, but Steve Murphy, like, I reached out to Steve because I needed help. I needed help on how do I deal with the stuff that I was currently dealing with. And he reached out. He had me on his podcast, the Game of Crimes podcast, and he employs a survivor at Libertas. He pays her like $150 every time she does like a video for him. He's connected me with like all these different people. He's trying to connect us with John Bernthal to be on his podcast. The what's his podcast?
Real Ones.
The Real Ones podcast. Steve just posted a picture of him and John. I was like, oh, that's so cool. The Punisher and the Narco, like Steve Murphy. But he's just a good. Like, I've met very few human beings that would just like, because Steve gains from helping me. He gains nothing except that he knows that there's good being done, and I really appreciate that about him. And one thing I always wanted to ask him is like, I want to ask the person we're having on Saturday the same question, John. But it's like, how do you, like, so you're living a story, right? You're living a story, a moment in your life, like I guess I'm really gonna fumble my words here. So help me to find better words so I don't fumble this as bad. But like, so this story that Steve lived, right? A story that could have been and was made into a Netflix series. It was just a part of your life. How do you recognize you as a human being? This is a moment of my life that is essential to my story that people are going to want to hear, to see, and it's a story that people care about. It's important to me. Like, do people, like, is there like a way to like recognize that? Is there a way to, I don't know, just because like sometimes like I think like the stories of my life, right? That I'm like, oh, I bet at some point people will be interested to hear these stories about me. I have two stories specifically. One that I lived, and one that I'm currently living. One is the story with Sarah. Sarah, my daughter, who was a survivor of trafficking, and this thing that happened in this note. I'm like, okay, that's a, like, now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, people are gonna want to hear that story one day. But at the time, it was just life. It was just life. It was something we were doing, something that you're kind of walking your way through, and
you're just doing the right thing.
You're just doing it, right? You're just like living this experience. And you're like, I bet someday this would be a really cool story to share. And then like the story of like what happened to me in Mexico was, I won't say her name because, but with the tampons and like the dinner and all these different things, the South Dakota thing, like, I'm like, it's a story that matters, right? Whether it's, made into something or whatever in the future, like, I don't know, I don't care, but you just recognize in the moment, this is a story that matters. I'm like, how do you recognize that? Do you have to like do like internal like reflections, or you just know, or do you? Because I wanted to ask Steve this: if like when you were living this story, did you think that at this point this would be a story that so many people would know and care about, or were you just doing the right thing? Like, I don't know. So I'm
having met the guy through the video screen, right? I would say his answer would be he was just doing the right thing because it's the right thing, with no thought in the world of, well, this is going to be a cool story down the road. Just, again, sitting across from him face to face via our video, it felt like I was in the same room, even though we weren't.
Yeah.
So I'll just say face to face. I was like there. I walked away going, if anyone believes in the idea that you have a purpose on this earth and you have been sent down here to do something that will have a good impact on the world, Steve Murphy fits the bill. Like, he came in, he was one of two people to do what he did in that country with that individual and Narcos, that helped end that chapter in history.
Yeah.
Right? And then continues to go above and beyond and still be a good human being. He has I'm sure he has seen things and experienced things that could give him every reason in the world to just go, I don't like humanity. Screw all of you. I'm just going to numb the pain. But he doesn't. He is still involved and doing good, right? And I think it's just because that's who he is.
Yeah.
And I think there's someone who came to Earth, did what he was supposed to do, and then is still going above and beyond. I mean, that's my opinion. But he's a good human.
He is, and so are you. And I was thinking, I'd use that to. When you were talking, I was thinking, I was like, Sam's had some good stories. Like, I don't know if you. I'm gonna go slightly off topic. So you can bring us back if you'd like. But
Okay.
I'm just like, if Sam,
I'm like, uh-oh.
I'm like when you were living this moment of your life, like I could see this as like, you know about heavyweights, right? You talk about heavyweights to start the show. I'm gonna bring it back to heavyweights and all these different things, where you're like, I think you were, or maybe you thought about this when you were living it, but like living, I'm going back to like this podcast I used to listen to while I was still going, living a good story, right? And like your story of your year when you went on like that just physical transformation and it culminated in Iceland, right? With you chucking the ring in the volcano and like going to like where your heritage is and you buying Thor's hammer and all these different things. I'm just like, if like the journey that leads up to that moment, like as far as like your personal journey of like a mix of like heavyweights, the first 20 minutes of Batman Begins, Walter Mitty, and the training montage of Rocky IV. If you could combine those four elements, you guys know what I'm talking about. And like, I'm like, that is a story worth telling, bro. And like, I apologize I went off the rails a little bit, but I was thinking about that. I'm just like, Steve, like in his moment, doing the right thing, like in Narcos and like fighting evil and going out and getting pizza and beer with the boys, not knowing that like he probably was knowing, but just doing the right thing, not only for others, but also by himself, because Steve is a deep believer in God. I don't think Steve could have looked himself in the mirror or sat in church and been like, I'm not doing everything I can to do good. And like you, with like that story of heavyweights, the first 20 minutes of Batman Begins, Rocky IV, and Walter Mitty, the vibe of Walter Mitty, the vibe of it. Not so much the story as a whole, but the vibe. You know what I'm talking about? Crush that into one. It's like when you were going through that transformation, I'd see you when we go to the theater, just getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer until you booked it to Iceland. I'm like, I don't know if you realized that you were living such an impactful moment of your life at that moment, and a moment that I think a lot of people wish they could live, had the strength to live. Because like with Steve's story, I imagined a lot of people wish they could be like Steve and Javi. That's why I reached out to him. I was like, I want to be more like Steve. Help me to understand what goes through your head, right? And with your story where you talk about just the journey that you went on that whole year, and like that Walter Mitty episode that we did, and your story that you did, like the Power of Story episode. Like I just think it's a good. I think it's a story that I think people would draw a lot of inspiration from. I think a lot of people want to get to that point of self transformation and self awareness, and they might not know how. So that's my rant. That was my rant. That was what I was thinking of. Just like if that's a story we're telling, just that's where I would like those four elements and just combine it. And
Well, now, if you would go, well, where is he now? I'm like in that chunky Thor stage
oh yeah,
where it's like, put on a few pounds back.
give me a beer.
Yeah, like Wi-Fi's on the fridge.
Yeah,
Like, but eventually Thor finds his way back, right? And so I'm still trying to find what I tapped into that year. Because I look at that and I don't know what happened. It was the only thing that I can describe it was I was in a flow state for 9 straight months. Just a complete flow state. Time was irrelevant. All of that, I look back in time and I look at it and I go, I don't see 9 months. I just see one moment. And it's all there.
God, I want to get to that point now. The way you're describing it, I was like,
I'm trying to figure out what happened to get me into my mind to flop into to switch into this flow state. I mean, my life transformed. Yes, physically.
I remember there was shit that you would tell me that would start to surprise me, and then it wouldn't. Like you were like, "Oh, I lost 20 pounds or something." I can people no longer bump into me on the air. I can sit in my own airport seat and airplane seat, and no one is bumping into me. Or like I just got a new job, and it's triple what I was making before. I'm like, well, of course, because it's just like you're just like the Yankees and their tornado bats. It's like bang, 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 bang for like 9 months. Everything you tell me, I was just like, oh, of course.
It was crazy. It was this. I had checked into a flow state, and I think I had. And I know people go, "Oh, that's juju, voodoo, whatever. Like that's whatever, right?" But I think I connected with myself at a core level where I had removed every layer of lies that I had told myself or thought about myself. I had let go of every excuse that I had ever held on to. I had taken responsibility for everything. And I had just owned who I was. And I accepted it and I loved it. That core. And again, I am still trying to process this. And I just was looking back, and I mean, this was now 3 years ago, and I'm like, what the heck happened? Where did 3 years go? So, I mean, it started 4 years ago, but 3 years ago, like, where did all of this, like this time? And I remember thinking when I started, it was like, the time is going to pass either way. And when I get to this point in time, what side do I want to be on? Do I want to be on the side that goes, the time has passed and I didn't do this? Or the time has passed and I am on the other side of it and I am actually moving well beyond this point in time? I don't know. But it was flow state is the only thing I can way to describe it, because I had no sense of time. I had no sense of I mean, I can't even describe it.
That's why I think it's so cool. Like just even like how you're describing it now, where we go back to like the first 2 episodes of our podcast.
Let me
go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
This will sound weird.
There's a couple parts of this podcast we're gonna have to like, okay,
but
our raw thoughts.
Truly, I know this is gonna sound really weird.
Lock off on exclusive.
I believe in God. I believe that there's a higher power or source. And like at that point in time, it was as if I was like, I am of God, therefore I am God, and I create my world. Everything that I desire, I want, can come to fruition. Like I have the power and the capacity to do that because I am. And I'm not saying I am Jesus Christ. I'm not saying that. But I felt as if I had tapped into like my divine being of I am of God, therefore I am God. And everything I wanted just happened. It was like the universe conspired in my behalf. Everything moved around what I wanted. And when I say what I wanted, like it wasn't selfish. Like a gross selfish want, but it was like a righteous good desire for me in my life. And it was like everything just happened. I'm not going to say I didn't put in the work. I put in the work, but I entered some sort of state that I felt almost as if I was a god. And I know that sounds crazy and weird, but it was like the purest, truest form of who I was like taking over. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's like there's just so my gosh, like so the first two episodes of our podcast are called "The Power of Story" and "The Heroes of My Story," and that's intentional. Like we talk about this podcast of like it's for us. It's for us to like dissect these stories, to understand our stories, and understand other people's stories. And that's what I love about like even like Narcos is like through Narcos, I'm learning more about my story. I'm learning more about your story and Steve's story. Like I'll bring it back to Steve to where like there's moments I think in our stories that we don't know that something special is transpiring. We just put one foot in front of the other. Like Steve was like just chasing down a bunch of Colombians in Miami, doing probably something that he does every single day, then goes bowling with the buddies. Unbeknownst to him, that was the start of like this transformational journey that he would take on these 2 seasons of Narcos. And I think the same thing like with the real Steve is that I think there was like 3 positions that came open in the DEA and he took the one that sounded the most exotic in Bogota. Non-beknownst to him, that would change his life. That the guy lives on podcasting and public speaking now about a Netflix show. I mean, what a life, right? Like I'll think like you talk about Sarah's story. It started with I got a note from someone that said we got a girl that needs school supplies because she hasn't been to school in a year. Can we help with that? Yes. I still have the first voice message that Sarah gave me, thanking me that she can go back to school after a year being out of school because she was being trafficked. Almost to me, like that message that I used to get every single day would be the start of like this amazing, amazing journey. Paying for tampons in Mexico, I had no idea that would lead to like what it led to. Your story, there's a part in your story that I'm just like that I think is so. You talk about like what led you to this state, right? The state that you were in, where you were God, that you were your purest self. The part of your story that I remember the most vividly, where I think is the start of it, and I don't think you or I knew this was such a part of it, is the Reese's cups. You know what I'm talking about? Was it Reese's? Because what I remember from your story, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we can edit this out if it's not correct, is it you were just not feeling super great one day, like emotionally, and you got some kind of candy and took it to your home and just like you finished it. Whatever it was too much and you finished it. And somewhere like in that same time span is where you were like, I'm not happy. I need to.
Oh. I think I know what you're talking about. No. So
It wasn't Reese's?
no.
Okay, well tell me the story now. Now that I'm getting the story wrong.
I think this is what you're referring back to. I mean, I was in such a low place, and had like such a low self-esteem and value and view of myself. I would like every night, like I'm addicted to sugar. Like I just am. And if I have one thing, it just fucking spirals out of control. Uh, and so when it's out of control, it is absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like someone addicted to cocaine, right? Uh, like that's a battle that I battle with is sugar, and sometimes I am in better control of it than others. But I was in such a bad state, and it was like, and I just get sick. Like I just
eat too much sugar.
I just get sick from sugar, and it can even just be a little bit, and I just get sick, and I just feel so ill, and like I can't function, but I would just still eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so embarrassing to say, but this was the reality. I would basically like fight my cravings all day, and then at night I would just be like shaking, and I would just be like, I just want one fucking I just want one Reese's peanut butter cup. I just want one.
Okay, got it.
I'm just gonna go and get one. Right? And then I go into the gas station, and then it's like colors and stimuli everywhere. And it's like, I'll take this Reese's and shit, I'm going to get these gummies. Oh my gosh.
Twinkies,
Candy clusters. Holy fuck.
Nerds.
Like,
yeah.
Candy clusters was like the thing. So anyways, I would end up buying like literally like 4 or 5 bags of candy. And I would go home and I would just eat it. And I would be so sick to the point that I couldn't finish the bags because I was so sick, and I would fall asleep just ill. And I would wake up the next morning, finish the bags, and then just like hold out as long as I could for the rest of the day because I had it in the morning. So was in my system, and it's all I craved all day long. And then I get to the end of the day, and I would just be like trembling, like, fuck.
Yeah.
I just need one Reese's peanut butter cup. And I'd go, I'm just going to get one. I'm just going to have one. And I'd enter that store, and I'd pick up the one, and then I would go, oh my gosh, I love gummy bears. Candy clusters, right? And then one night, I'm like so sick. And I so sick that I can't even fall asleep because I'm so sick. And I just remember like a year prior, I had filmed a 12-week program with a guy named Chris Gethin. And Chris Gethin is the real deal. I mean, he's a world-class trainer, trains people all over the world, bodybuilder. He's a biohacker, does tons of health stuff, works with people all over the world, celebrities, whatever. He lives in Boise, and I had spent a week with him when I was at Boise, and I remember that week I spent with him. I don't know what it was. There was something about him that I was like, this guy has like some gift of healing with teaching and nutrition. And I remember feeling so good after working with him and so inspired to like live better. And that sat with me that whole year. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. And then thought was like, you need to reach out to Chris. So I texted Chris, and I was like, basically, Chris, I have no control. I am lost and I need help. And he was like, if you're gonna do this, I need you. If it's gonna be half-assed and bullshit, I'm not interested. But if you're actually gonna do this, I'm in. And he was like, I'll give you a discount because you helped me with this thing and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, and then that was it. He was like, I got 3 months before my next slot opens. We can start October 3rd. And I was like, okay. So then, like, I was like, okay, I need to get ready for October 3rd. and like the same problems over and over and over. Started to get better in September, and then like October 3rd hit, and I don't know what happened, but it was just like a flip switched and something changed, and then it was like everything changed. My mind, my body, my surroundings, the people in my life, like it was crazy. People, everything in my life that was not in alignment fell out, and for the better. And at the time I thought, this is tough. I've had these friends for years, or blah 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 blah. And it was just, I realized none of this is for you. Stop being in an environment and in a place where you don't belong. Eating, like putting into your body things that don't belong. Ideas, thoughts, things that don't belong. It was like getting rid of all of that.
Yeah.
So, but that was a nutshell. I mean, that was a.
Yeah, I had like a bastardized version of that, where it's like, it sounds like your journey of that was something where, I remember the night that you were sick, right? The night that you were sick, and you reached out to the guy. I didn't know that you had the trembling thing. That was the information to me. I thought the story was that you were in a low spot and you went to Maverick or something, got like 36 like Reese's peanut butter cups and finished them all like in one night. You're so sick that you were just like, I can't keep living like this, and then reached out to Chris.
Yeah, I mean,
So it sounds like it was something like that, just a longer period.
Yeah.
And maybe not quite the emphasis. I don't know why I fixated like the Reese's peanut butter cups.
oh well, because Reese's is like, Reese's was the.
It was that thing?
It was like, all I want is one Reese's.
Yeah.
But it was the gateway. It was the gateway drug.
Okay. So I had probably like 75% of that story correct.
Yeah, and Nerd Candy Clusters was the nail in the coffin.
But I love that, because I'll bring it back to Narcos. Like thank you for sharing that. I didn't know all those details. The things that like you start our podcast, where the two names that we started our podcast, when you interviewed me and I interviewed you, the power of story and the heroes of my story. Like the power of that story that you just shared, the power of the story of Narcos, of good fighting evil and what has to happen. Like those are two stories that like people care about, right? And in both those stories, there's heroes in that story that are outside of you and Steve. Like for you, I mean, imagine Chris is fucking like just on top of your list of like people that just helped you.
Yeah.
You get a discount and open the slot, and just a hero of your story, of that story that you experienced, culminating in like this. I think of it as like this Batman Begins, like when he's fighting, like looking for the flower to take to Ra's al Ghul, just that, but more, still Hans Zimmer score, more uplifting Hans Zimmer score of like a climax of the movie where you're just climbing the volcano as like this new human being just ready to chuck that thing in. It pops back out as a hammer or something. I don't know. And then Steve's story of like, when we interviewed Steve, he was talking of like, look, it wasn't me that really put myself on the line. Like, yeah, I was an American DEA agent, but for the most part, I was protected, because after what happened in Mexico with Kiki Camarena, another DEA agent that was tortured and murdered, and then the Mexican cartels got the full force of the American government, they knew not to have with me. It was the Colombian police that really helped that story culminate to where I get to talk about this today. Heroes of his story. And that's why I love story, man. That's why I love. You get to know, like I talked about the last time I did this podcast, the sermon in church. Through story is how you really find out who people really are.
Yeah. Well, now I think about that. I don't know the story of this guy, Kiki
Camarena.
Kiki Camarena. I don't know the story of him, but like him being tortured and killed is what opened the door for this, right?
Yep. Played by Michael Peña. That's the actor. Back when he was not as important as he is now.
And that's right. You never like, and that guy was just doing the right thing, and then got the short end of the stick, but paved pathway to walk for Steve and Javier. Anyways, I find that interesting. Yeah, I guess to tie this all back into one, I think, sugar, it's an addiction, but it all, in the end, it was like I was trying to fill myself with something because there was a gaping hole, and I didn't know what that hole was, but I was trying to fill it with something. And so at that time, sugar was like the number one thing, and I was just trying to fill myself with it. Now, it'll be whatever it is: drugs, sex, alcohol, food, um, whatever it is, right? Uh, is it because do people engage in those things that just further and further get them down more and more, just because there's something that is not, that there's an emptiness, or there's a hole that is gaping, that needs to be filled? There's a void that's not there. There's a meaning that is not felt, right? There must have been something for Pablo.
I think it's the cartels too, just looking to belong to something bigger than themselves. Like, I mean, why else do people join organized crime or cults or whatever? Isn't it the search for meaning,
Yeah.
search for community, search
There's
for importance,
something. They're trying to find something to fill a hole that needs filling, and so, I mean, I get it to a degree, you know, and I think it's when we actually take a real look at ourselves, where we get rid of the excuses. We stop blaming other people. We take responsibility. We accept the situation and circumstances as they are, for what they are. And it is all on us. There's no one else to blame. And when we do that, I think that opens us up to actually seeing what's missing. And then we can start finding and feeling what that is. And then things start to transform. Things start to blossom. I mean, that's my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why I love the story of Narcos. It's a lot of people living their stories. It's how do people end up on whichever side that they're on. And I think sometimes, like, there's some times in Narcos where they get really down to where the cops get killed or Carrillo gets killed. Like, once Carrillo gets killed, and Steve's wife, which didn't happen in real life, he wanted that said, where she's like, "Nope, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm going back to Miami." And
She never left.
She never left. No, she never left. No, just like, there's some low points in that series, but you just, like, Steve, Javier, even Pablo, to a sense. Like, Pablo has some low times in this story too. You just keep on putting one foot in front of the other, and sometimes that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
But you would recommend Narcos to your friends then?
I absolutely would.
Yeah.
It's a tough. I mean, thematically.
Oh, one thing I
It's a
want to
tough
mention:
watch.
the cinematography in this was beautiful. They made Colombia look just
It was
amazing.
amazing.
The mountains, the city, the everything. I was like, I bet Sam is like a cinematographer, really enjoyed like those shots of the city and the mountains.
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I probably shouldn't admit this. Everyone's gonna go, "Oh, you sicko!" Blah, blah, blah. There was a shot though that I just go, "Wow, this was a beautiful shot," and uh, it just happens to be that dude that was that womanizer.
Which one?
I don't know his name. but they're
Oh, the guy from Louisiana, the one that gets arrested,
yeah,
and it's the overhead shot.
the overhead
Yeah.
shot, and
He's having an orgy.
He is having an orgy. He's in the middle of all these naked women.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sexual to me when I saw it.
Mhm.
I just thought, oh my gosh, this is a piece of artwork.
Mhm.
I was like, wow. Like, I was kind of speechless. I was like, holy shit, that's beautiful. The lighting in the shadows, and just how it was all like this collage. Anyways, I just was like, wow, that was a beautiful shot. It just happens to have a lot of naked women.
There's a scene with Pablo. He's in like one of his ranches and he's smoking. He's out in the field. The Columbia is very green. The rain is coming in. He's starting to smoke and he laughs, and like just the vision of that, I was like, oh, he's king of Columbia right now. Like he's just enjoying the rain, the green. He's out there he's king. And then fast forward a season, and he's standing over a pool that's empty, but there's still some water like in the deep end. It's dirty, it's rotting, it's gross. You're standing there looking at it, and I was like, he's not king of Columbia anymore. He's in hiding. His whole empire is rotting. There's still some there. There's some water in that pool. It's not great. He's still alive. He's still breathing. But compared to like what we saw and what he's at now, I'm like, oh, I bet Sam loves that because I'm getting a reaction of what's happening to Pablo's empire just based on the
visual
aesthetic, the visual
storytelling. Good shit. Yeah. And I will say one more thing to that is at the end, the last episode, when he's sitting on a bench and Gustavo comes to him and they have this little conversation and then he walks away. And obviously it's an imagination. But he's just sitting, he's just defeated. And he's sitting on this bench. And that shot of just him in the community of Columbia in the center of all of this living in action. And he is just hunched over. He's just defeated. And I think that was just such an amazing, it was so simple, but it said so much. Going back to the same thing of like, here was the king of Columbia, and now he is like this fat bum on a park bench.
He was talking to his family via a microphone as they're like locked in a hotel.
Yeah.
And I think in the opening scene of that last episode is when he has the dream that he's president. Yeah. He's smoking a joint in like the Colombian version of the White House, and then it pans to like him waking up in some apartment, like fat, has the beard, they're out of eggs. Yeah, and like what I understand from like what I've read online and Steve is that what Pablo most wanted was attention, respect, and political power. So when he's ousted from Congress, like in episode 2 of the series, where they find out that he was arrested, he's a drug trafficker, and he's kicked out, and that's what really starts like his angst against the government. It was so fitting that in the last episode of his part of the Narcos story that he has that dream where he's president, he's adored by the people of Colombia, he's got so much power he can smoke his own cocaine in the White House, and he wakes up to his reality, and it's just like fat, no money, one Sicario left, and he goes and sits in a bench in the middle of his city, and no one recognizes him because he's a nobody.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. That was really well done, and I think it really also showed that like this life that life that he was pursuing and chasing, it doesn't lead to the bright imaginations you have in your head. Like it leads to emptiness. You lose everything you have, even yourself.
Yep.
And that's sad.
Yeah, you think Pablo, he really could like, take away the crime, but has a very engaging personality, very big personality, obviously a good business person despite him selling contraband and drugs. Like what could have he accomplished if he wasn't such an egotistical maniac, psychopath? I think you can use the word psychopath. And he actually put his God-given talent to something productive. Like he very well could have been in Congress. Why not?
Yeah.
But
what was the hole that he kept trying to fill? I don't know.
Guess we'll never know because Steve Murphy shot him on the roof and then took a picture with him, which I think caused him a lot of heat. Of like, look at the deer I just
Trophy
shot. Yeah. Well, cool, Sam. Anything else?
Just be sure to tell someone that you love them.